Welcome to Ethiopia Today.
Halayeb and Shalateen triangle border dispute between Egypt and Sudan is tearing communities apart and caught in the crossfire of the two countries' bilateral relations. An air of mistrust and intrigue plagued the Egyptian-Sudanese border regions for decades. The Halayeb-Shalateen triangle has been a source of entrenched political difference and conflict. Caught in the crossfire are border communities who are determined to push for regional stability. However, tensions continue to cloud relations between Cairo and Khartoum, says Egyptian streets media. Tensions over border security and regional stability had prompted sudden public interest and attention on the issue of Halayeb and Shalateen. According to a report by the Carnegie Middle East Center, the Egypt-Sudan border, a story of unfulfilled promise. 2020. A rapid increase in illicit trafficking following the Sudanese uprising of 2018 to 2019 and erratic changes in Sudanese policy concerning the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam Gerd raised alarm bells in Egyptian media outlets and in the public sphere. The Halayeb and Shalateen triangle comprises an area of 20,000 square kilometers and includes several towns, notably Halayeb, Abu Ramad, Ras Al Hadariya, Marsa Hamira, and the town of Abrak. The area is inhabited by Nubians as well as nomadic tribes, namely El Ababda and Bashriya, accounting for a population of 27,000. When Sudan became independent in 1956, both Egypt and Sudan claimed sovereignty over the area. A once isolated and remote region in Egypt, the Halayeb and Shalateen triangle is now attracting an abundance of adventurers looking to experience the area's unique culture and untouched wilderness. The region has been an arena for sustained discord and political instability since the independence of Sudan in 1956, though the Egyptians sent military units to the Halayeb Triangle in the 1990s. And they have controlled the area as part of the Red Sea Governorate and has been actively investing in it. This would mark the beginning of Egypt's territorial control over the Halayeb and Shalateen Triangle and the spark of Sudanese resistance and opposition. Arguments over colonial land allocation stipulated in the Sudan Agreement in 1899 have fueled ongoing disagreements. Conflicts over electoral jurisdiction and sporadic unilateral declarations of sovereignty would put immense strain on local livelihood and stifle trade. Sheriff Mo Eldin, a non-resident scholar on Egypt and North Africa cross-border issues at the Carnegie Middle East Center, believes that restrictions placed on border relations and cross-border population movement, which have enhanced illicit trade, negatively affected border communities. Most recently, in January 2021, Sudan filed a complaint to the United Nations Security Council requesting international intervention to restore their own sovereignty over the region. Cairo has been persistent in rejecting any claims of Sudanese sovereignty made by Khartoum over Halayeb and Shalateen. The region represents an indispensable military outpost on the southern Red Sea for Egypt, leading strategic depth and helping safeguard national security. According to Samir Ghaddas, a former Egyptian member of parliament and head of the Middle East Forum for Strategic Studies, it is highly unlikely that Egypt would give up territories in the Halayeb and Shalateen area to the benefit of Sudan. Ghaddas continued to stress the geopolitical importance of the region, explaining that the area provides strategic depth for Egypt on the southern Red Sea coast, which is vital for safeguarding national security. However, he believes that Egypt might favor the establishment of a bilateral agreement which would give the Sudanese government limited access to the region in question. Rich in natural minerals, gold, and with potential offshore oil and gas reserves, the region also has an attractive mining status. Both Egypt and Sudan have expressed specific interest in offering concessions for oil and gas exploration. Last year, the Sudanese Ministry of Energy and Oil had published an updated concessions map which had included the Halayeb and Shalateen Triangle as an area available for bidding by international investors. Interestingly, the Egyptian government remained without objection, as ongoing political and economic developments in the region may have made Cairo hesitant to adopt a reactionary policy towards the Sudanese government. As Khartoum is playing a crucial mediating role in the conflict over water rights to the River Nile, an integrated and coordinated approach from Cairo and Khartoum is required to find an adequate diplomatic solution with Ethiopia, report says. The convergence of Egyptian and Sudanese policies on the issue of Gerd has meant that Cairo is wise enough to become more cooperative in providing concessions for Halayeb and Shalateen tensions. Former Egyptian Deputy Foreign Minister for African Affairs Mona Omar maintains that settlement in relation to the Halayeb and Shalateen area was expected in a bid to thwart any external attempts to drive a wedge between the two countries. The influence of local communities in the region has equally worked to bridge differences between the Egyptian and Sudanese governments. Ababda, Bashariya, and Nubian tribes on both sides of the border have consistently lobbied for open border crossings to improve local livelihoods and enhance bilateral trade. The resumption of trade and facilitation of border crossings had for some time contributed to a less antagonistic atmosphere. However, strict visa restrictions and unreliable border operations have hampered relations between respective regimes in Khartoum and Cairo. According to the Carnegie Middle East Center report in 2020, a prominent Nubian leader was adamant that there is absolutely no dispute or conflict within our community toward the Sudanese. We are and always have been brothers and sisters. Yet all the disputes in media outlets between the two countries are and always have been political disputes between the two regimes over their agendas and interests, not at all those of the people. The involvement of local communities has been vital in easing tensions. Tribal leaders have consistently encouraged cooperation between both states. However, the promise of lucrative trade agreements, stability, and regional cooperation have not been sufficient to invoke constructive political action. Both Khartoum and Cairo continue to claim sovereignty over the Halayeb and Shalateen Triangle to this day. A spokesperson from the Sudanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that Sudan has decided to resort to international arbitration to restore territorial governance over the region. Moreover, the impact of COVID-19 on Egypt's tourism sector and the ongoing instability in Sudan following Bashir's removal from office has created immense strain on bilateral relations. Currently existing economic and political challenges facing both countries are leading to strained border relations. In a state of perpetual motions, the conflict over Halayeb and Shalateen seems destined to remain in limbo, confined to government hallway of Khartoum and Cairo until further notice. On another development, there have been positive signs in recent days about resuming negotiations between Ethiopia and Sudan to solve the existing disputes between the two countries. On February 17th, Ethiopian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Dina Mufti announced that Ethiopia and Sudan have been discussing the resumption of negotiations over the border conflict and the dispute over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD. Ethiopia's ambassador to Khartoum, Yibaltal and Mero, held a series of meetings with various Sudanese officials to negotiate a peaceful solution to the two issues, Mufti said during a press conference. He noted that the deputy head of Sudan's ruling council, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, had visited Addis Ababa in late January to discuss a solution to the border conflict, the opening of border crossings between the two countries, as well as the GERD issue. Newly appointed ambassadors pledged to reinvigorate national interest and visibility of country. The newly appointed Ethiopian ambassadors said they are determined to reinvigorate the national interest of the country and make it visible continentally and internationally. Some of the ambassadors approached by ENA said modern diplomacy has been experiencing fundamental changes at an unprecedented level, and Ethiopia needs to cope with this dynamism to thwart unwarranted global influences. Ambassador Extraordinary Plenipotentiary of Ethiopia to Pakistan Jamal Bakir said digital diplomacy is now needed in Ethiopia to influence diplomacy through social media and other platforms. According to him, Ethiopia has been under steady international disinformation campaign and global pressure since the outbreak of the conflict in the northern part of the country. All those disinformation campaigns, or what we call fake news, distort Ethiopia's image as well as try to affect our roles in the globe. But Ethiopians have demonstrated vibrancy and strength. In addition to re-engaging diplomats and presenting the country's real image to the international community, the country has been managing its internal affairs, which is creating an enabling atmosphere for diplomacy, the ambassador added. We were expected to manage our domestic issues, so we are managing them through dialogue and various peace initiatives. Now we, diplomats, are assertively engaging our partners who have supported us and convincing those who misunderstood us by giving them necessary information, Ambassador Jamal stated. Deputy head of Ethiopian Permanent Mission in New York, Yosef Kase, said Ethiopia has witnessed a politically motivated agenda that repeatedly made the country a discussion point at the UN Security Council and Human Rights Council. Ethiopian diplomats have, however, done a great job in explaining the situation on the ground to the international community during the past year. The country has been known for promoting peace, the ambassador noted, adding that the diplomats are now committed to promoting regional integration and ensuring global visibility. Ambassador Yosef noted, we play a critical role in the continent to make sure that we can collectively advance our interests as Africa. We also play an important role in the global stage of public policy since we have been active in climate diplomacy and also promoting sustainable development goals. Ambassador Genet Tashoma, Ethiopia's ambassador to Cuba, stated that the country is rearranging its diplomatic approach to defend its interests and make the international community become part of the country's aspiration. To achieve Ethiopia's ambition, diplomats should therefore be proactive in digital diplomacy. The coverage of diplomatic activities through digital means would be very intense in terms of speed and borderless coverage, he noted, adding that we ambassadors will employ this platform to promote the interest of Ethiopians and its government, enhance its visibility at the international venue. Zimbabwe. Mthuli Ncube claims Zimbabwe has lost $42 billion because of sanctions. Finance and Economic Development Minister Mthuli Ncube claims Zimbabwe has lost at least $42 billion because of sanctions imposed on the country by Western powers since 2003, New Zimbabwe reports. The amount is more than double the size of Zimbabwe's economy. The European Union and the United States have recently renewed sanctions on Zimbabwe, while other countries like Britain and Canada are expected to follow suit. They mainly cite human rights violations and insufficient political and economic reforms as a pretext to extend the embargoes. Speaking at a youth program in Gwerusat, Ncube said the country is reeling from the effects of sanctions. The over $42 billion which we have lost since 2002 is almost double our economy, which stands at $25 billion. That's quite a huge margin, and people need to realize the effects of such a loss, Ncube said. Almost $42 billion of that money was intended for drone support, and $18 billion was for finance support. Banks lost over 100 corresponding resources. We experienced massive loss of jobs, and we were unable to create jobs easily. We have lost foreign direct investment, he said. FDI has been restricted, and investors would be fearing to associate with us for fear of these sanctions. If you are to look at the FDI inflows in the 80s, they were about $8 million per year. They increased to $95 million in the 90s, but then dropped to $20 million per annum in the 2000s, Ncube said. South Africa. Anti-migrant demonstrations turn violent in Alexandra. Clashes have erupted in Alexandra between South Africans and migrants. The violence trended under the Operation Dudula hashtag, referring to the Operation Dudula group, consisting mainly of Soweto residents, who along with the Put South Africa First movement also took to the streets weeks ago in multiple demonstrations protesting the presence of foreign nationals and accusing them of various crimes. SABC reporter Crystal Lewis tweeted the photo of a man bleeding profusely from the head after being beaten. There are several images of men carrying bricks during the attacks, which have forced the shops of migrants to be closed for the day. Operation Dudula says they want illegal foreign nationals to leave the country as they blame them for occupying jobs that they say should be held by South Africans, Becky Simlane wrote for the Daily Maverick. The group has repeatedly said that many young South Africans have qualifications, but turn to drugs and alcohol because they cannot find work. The Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa believes that Operation Dudula was orchestrated by some political parties under the misguided pretext of protecting employment for vulnerable South Africans, Ground Up reported. South Sudan. South Sudan marks milestone amid stalled progress as violence spreading. South Sudan's unity government marked its 2-year anniversary against a backdrop of stalled constitutional progress and ongoing cycles of community violence, often fueled by political groups and armed militias, the senior unofficial in the country told the Security Council on Monday. As we enter the remaining 12 months of the transitional period, we are mindful of the accumulation of unfulfilled commitments and the imperative to address them in the limited time at hand, said Nicholas Haysom, the Secretary General's special representative for South Sudan and head of the United Nations mission there known as UNMISS. Recalling that the 22nd of February marked 2 years since the formation of the revitalized Government of National Unity, the special representative reported that South Sudan's ceasefire largely continues to hold and civilian casualties have dropped significantly. Mali. Al-Qaeda leader killed in Mali, France says. The French army says it has killed one of the leaders of Al-Qaeda in Mali, VOA reported. The news comes as French forces are preparing to withdraw from the country. The French army said in a press release Monday that Algerian Yahya Jouadi, one of the leaders of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, was killed during the night of February 25 to 26. The press release says he was neutralized during a ground operation supported by a helicopter and 2 drones north of Timbuktu, Mali. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb has claimed responsibility for several attacks in the Sahel region, including the 2015 terrorist attack on a Bamako hotel and a 2016 attack on a hotel in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, and has taken several Western hostages. Mali's military government, which seized power in a coup 10 months ago, asked France last month to withdraw its troops from Malian territory immediately following an announcement from French President Emmanuel Macron that the troops would be pulled out over a period of 4 to 6 months. The French military first intervened in Mali in 2013 in an operation to take back control of northern Mali from Islamist militants in Operation Serval. The operation was replaced by Operation Barkhane in 2014. But the ongoing insurgency has continued and violence has moved from the north into the center of the country. On Monday morning, 2 UN peacekeepers were killed when their convoy ran over an improvised explosive device in Mali's central Mopti region. The French press release Monday said that even though Operation Barkhane is being moved off Malian territory, operations against armed terrorist groups continue.
Are you looking to earn working remotely, from anywhere with maximum flexibility and convenient? Do you have a talent or services to offer to your clients? You have great chance of working on several jobs or projects for multiple clients at one time. Or are you a business owner or employer who are looking for hiring freelancer to work on your project? Well, if that's yes, please click the link below to learn more about and get started.